Hey, this is Brian Briscoe with another episode of the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. This is going to be what do we call them? A multifamily brief. Okay, so today, typically when I do these multifamily briefs, I talk about really what's on my mind. It's kind of like I talk with a lot of people, especially aspiring investors, either through the Tribe of Titans or through the mentorship program that I have. And I think what comes up a lot is, how to right size your first deal, how to decide how big of a first deal are you going to go in. Okay. And I just today, I got two different inquiries from people. One person is looking at a $40 million deal. Another group is looking at, an $18 million deal. One of them specifically asked me, what's too big, what, and really, I think that's all relative. Big for one person is not as big for somebody else. But what I would say is it needs to be right sized for you. And when we're looking at deals either from buy side or sell side, and we're selling a couple of deals right now. We had one that fell out of contract yesterday. But end of the day, I think part of it has to be you have to look at how much money can you reasonably raise and reasonably bring to the table. Right. And that's going to determine more than anything else how big of a deal you can chase or you should be chasing. All right. If you can't raise $10 million, you shouldn't be looking at $20 million and $25 million deals. All right. Because you just shouldn't is the answer. You just shouldn't. All right. I mean, go ahead and satisfy curiosity wise. That's great. But what does it take to close on a $20 million deal? I don't know is the answer because I haven't gotten that high yet. All right. The largest acquisition I've been was a $12 million property. Right. So end of the day, when you're looking at your first deal, when you're looking at, trying to leave a good impression on the brokers and convince the brokers and sellers that you're a good buyer, you have to be able to back up the offer with more than confidence, with more, there has to be something else there where you can point to and say, yes, Mr. Broker, I can close on that $30 million property. All right. Realistically, most people in their first deal should be looking at the $3 million property or the $5 million property. But the answer is really based on how much money can you raise? How much money can you bring to the table by that closing period? Once you have a property under contract, you usually have 60, 75, maybe 90 days to be able to close it. And if you're not able to raise large amounts of money in that short period of time, you're going to have a hard time closing. Now, next point, okay, private equity or large funds, okay, that's not the easy button. All right, I've talked with a lot of private equity providers. I've talked with a lot of large funds, and they all have very strict criteria. And a lot of that very strict criteria applies directly to the people who are running the deal. Right, they want to make sure that there are responsible individuals who are operating it and managing it to make sure that their money is safe. And just a healthy dose of honesty right here. If you are a brand new syndicator, if you're a brand new operator, you're not going to be able to easily attract these big companies who are willing to write that 3, 5, 10, or $20 million check as an acquisition. Okay. So realistically, if you want to get into the business, all right, start looking at what your capability is to raise capital. And if you can't raise a ton of capital, build your capability to raise capital. And that's going to help you get into larger and larger and larger deals. All right. Why is it that the largest deal I've been in is a $12 million deal? Because I can't raise more than $5 or $6 million by myself, right? Or, even bringing in a handful of people, that's about what my raise limit is. Okay, so I am working on increasing my raise limit so I can get into larger and larger deals. All right, so if you're out there and you can raise capital, and especially if you like Salt Lake City, reach out to me because I need people like you to be able to help me get into larger deals myself. All right. If you're out there looking for deals, all right, sit down and have an honest conversation with yourself about how much capital you can realistically bring to the table. And that should inform how large of a deal you're looking at. Okay. And end of the day, I would much rather have somebody bring me a $2.5 million deal like the one we just closed on in Denver last weekend than a $25 million deal. All right. Because that $2.5 million deal is something that's relatively easy to close on. A $1 million capital raise is a lot easier to do than a $10 million capital raise. All right. But that will be a stepping stone to something else. And incidentally, the team that closed on this $2.5 million deal in Denver, we're going to bring them on Thursday. We're going to do, well, we record the episode Thursday. It's going to be a first deal series episode. And I'm really excited to share their story with everybody else. Anyway, that's it for today. Once again, if you're able to raise capital, reach out. Always looking for capital raisers. And, we'll talk soon. Thanks.
Hey, if you like that episode, make sure to subscribe. But more importantly, if you haven't joined our multifamily educational community yet, which we call the Tribe of Titans, you are missing out. Get 30 days free by clicking the link in the description to this episode, or go to thetribeoftitans.info, and we'll see you there.